Welcome. Welcome to Community of Christ with the Shenandoah Congregation in San Antonio, Texas. Community of Christ is a welcoming and loving faith community. We proclaim Jesus Christ and promote communities of joy, hope, love, and peace. Please take a moment and like our video, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss anything, and comment to tell us where you are joining us from. Keep our contact details and share with us how we can minister to your needs. Find more information at www.seaofchristsa.org. If you would like to view past services, follow this link on our website. We welcome you, we acknowledge you, and we love you. Shalom.
And now I invite our brother Jay to bring us our morning message.
What a privilege. What a privilege it is to be here. What a privilege it is to share with you. I prepared my message a couple of weeks ago, and it is amazing as the Spirit moves us. A lot of the thoughts I had were some of the same ones that Jim shared in his prayer, and some of the same remarks you made today. And, it's like, well, I can cross that off my list now because we've already been there. But today is the sacrament. And our theme is come and find rest. Are you ready? Did you come prepared? Are you ready to touch the face of God? So often, we live in a world of distractions. Some are very minor that you kind of just push aside. And then yet, when you think about it, that little distraction keeps you from touching the face of God in that very moment. We come to church or we're sitting at home watching our service, and it's like, oh, I've got to get that ready for lunch, or I want to do that one more thing. I've got to turn the water off, watering the yard. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. And it takes you away from the moment. And some things are more deeper. Some are more challenging. Some are life issues that's really impacting our lives, addictions and so forth. And so come and find rest. Prepare yourselves now to share in our sacrament of communion. Our message today comes from a well-known, well-read scripture, and I'm going to share the last few verses of that. Our message comes from Matthew 16 through 28, but I'm going to start with Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and learned and revealed them to the little children. Yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. All things have been committed to me by my Father. No one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and to whom the Son chooses to reveal unto him. Verse 28, come to me, all you are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. The theme, come and find rest. Rest for your soul. Jesus offers us in this gospel reading rest for our weary souls. And don't we need that rest? About 30 or 40 years ago, Thomas More wrote a book that I still think about, called The Care of the Soul. And in the first sentence of his book, he made the claim, the greatest malady of our time, implicated in all of our troubles and affecting us individually and socially, is the loss of soul. When soul is neglected, it doesn't go away. It appears symptomatically in obsessions, addictions, violence, and loss of meaning. The world has changed a lot since he wrote that, but not in this respect. The world still neglects its soul. And smartphones, social media, and everything else that has come along in the past 30 or 40 years in the name of progress has not helped us at all. In fact, it reminds me of a statement made by the author and famous therapist Carl Jung, that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. It affects every other aspect of our life. Our relationships, our health, our sense of well-being and purpose. Our relationships, when we ignore our souls, no matter how good our life might seem on the outside, it's rotting from the inside out. And sooner or later, it will collapse. The burdens of life become too great as we begin leading the lives of quiet desperation. And so it's inevitable that we neglect our soul. So what do? Simply, really, Jesus says, come to him. Come here. Come to him. Take his yoke, learn from him, and find rest for our souls. From Jesus and only in Jesus, we can't buy it. There's no price. There's no pill that provides it. Rest for our souls can only be found through our faith and through our relationship with Jesus Christ. And that's part of why we are here, right here now. Because we were created by God to be in a loving relationship with him, and actually God created our souls to be restless until they find their rest in God. As St. Augustine once famously said, it is only when we realize that our souls are restless that we accept this invitation. So the first step to find rest is to realize how weary and burdened that we really are. If you're not weary and not doing just fine without Jesus, this invitation probably won't have a lot of meaning. There was another book called The Ragamuffin of the Gospel, and it wrote for a specific audience, the same audience that Jesus was inviting. He wrote for the bedraggled, the beat up, and the burnout. It is for the sorely burdened who are still shifting the heavy suitcase from one hand to the other hand. It is for the wobbly and the weak-kneed who know they don't have it all together yet. It's for the inconsistent, the unsteady disciples whose cheese has just fallen off their cracker. It's for the poor, the weak, the sinful men and women with hereditary faults and limited talents. It is for earthen vessels who shuffle along the feet of clay. It's for the bent and the bruised who feel that their lives are a grave disappointment to God. And it is also for smart people who know they are stupid and honest disciples who know that they are scallywags. So this gospel, he concludes, is for anyone who has grown weary and discouraged along the way. And folks, that's who we are, and that's why we're here. And we have the grace of sharing in communion to help us find that rest for our weary soul. That is exactly who this invitation from Jesus is for today. For all of us who have grown weary, for all of us who are carrying heavy burdens, and some of those heavy burdens aren't that heavy. They're just distractions. They're what takes us away from God in that moment. For all of us who long for true rest for our souls, Jesus said, "Come to me. All you that are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." But how does it happen? What happens when we come to Jesus? Well, he says we take his yoke upon us. A yoke is a yoke that is easy and a burden that is light. Paradoxically, we find rest for our souls by taking up his yoke. Let's remember what a yoke is. It's interesting. Every year I go to California and I participate with a neurologist for the Parkinson study. And one of our tests, they show me all these flashcards of items, and you're supposed to recall what all those are. And I find it interesting because I asked the therapist, I said, how do you do this for people of multiple languages, multiple cultures, the young and the old? But one of those was a yoke. And you've got to come up with, that is a yoke. So it was really kind of interesting that maybe our young generation doesn't always know what a yoke is. So remember what a yoke is. It is not the yellow part of an egg. A yoke is a wooden cross piece that is fastened over the necks of two animals and attached to the plow or cart they are about to pull. The wooden cross piece helps the two animals pull together. Take my yoke upon you, Jesus said. So when we come to Jesus and learn from him, we become yoked with him. He pulls with us. Jesus doesn't take away whatever we are pulling, but we no longer have to pull it alone. Jesus pulls our burden with us. And he goes on to say that the yoke is easy, which in this case really means well-fitting. His yoke is well-fitting. I like how a scholar explains what Jesus meant by this. Did you know that ox yokes were made of wood? The ox was brought and measurements were taken, and the yoke was roughed out, and the ox was brought back to have the yoke tried on. The yoke was carefully adjusted so that it would fit well. So each yoke fit each one of the animals specifically. The yoke God shares with us is made for us. And that's exactly who this invitation from Jesus is for today. For all of us that have grown weary, for those who are carrying burdens, for all of us who long for true rest for our souls. Come to me, Jesus says, all that you are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. So what happens whenever we come to Jesus? He says we take his yoke upon us, a yoke that is easy, a burden that is light. So think about that yoke that Jesus offers us as tailor-made, which means that it is a burden for us to live as Christ wants us to live. He doesn't want it to be a burden, and he wants to be yoked with us. Oh my goodness, what a gift. Have you thought about that? The yoke is a gift. There's a legend, which means it might be true or it might be not, but it's a great story. Jesus was a carpenter. We remember that. But he made the best yokes in all of Galilee, and that from all over people came to Jesus to buy his yokes. And as the legend goes, the carpenter Jesus had a sign over his shop that says, "My yoke fits well." His sign said, "My yoke fits well." Learn from him. Jesus just does not invite us to take up his yoke. He invites us to learn from him. So if we're going to find rest for our souls, it will be from learning from Jesus. Jesus, when you think about it, had as much reason to be restless as anybody. His life was incredibly difficult, and he knew it would end in a cross. But his soul was always at rest. He was always at peace in the world, and he wants us to teach us how to have that same peace. He wants us to take his yoke and learn from him. A soul at rest is not a mind at rest. And one of the ways to find rest for our souls is to continue learning. Through our studies, our Sunday school worships, our daily Bible readings, our devotions, we always learn from Jesus. And imitating his example, we can continue to learn from him. Spending the quiet time, putting away our electronic distractions, going out to the desert, out to Bandera, out to the mountains, or even just into our quiet closet at home, but somewhere where we can listen to God for his still small voice. That's what Jesus did. And we can learn from him so we can do this ourselves. So my question today is, what if we actually did this? What if we actually came to Jesus every day and we did take his yoke upon us and we did learn from him? What if we woke up every morning and said to Jesus, "I cannot carry the burden of this day without you. I need you to teach me. I need you to lead me and guide me. I need you to place your yoke upon me." So if you're like me and you need a daily reminder to come to him and take his yoke upon you, you will learn from him. It's too easy to get caught up in life and forget to do it. It happens to every one of us, almost every day. Jesus wants us to take his yoke upon us so he can help bear the burden. Most of us do need a daily reminder. So sometimes you may want to put a little card in your wallet or up on the refrigerator to be reminded of this invitation. And don't let it in there. The daily invitation comes and can become something even more than that. It can become our daily mission. What if we approached every day with the invitation in mind for others? What if we approached every day with this invitation in mind where we met someone who already was weary and carrying a heavy burden? What if you gave that message away? What if you gave them a little card with a reminder of the invitation? Live your lives in a way that shows others what it means to have rest within your soul. There's plenty of evidence all around our world of this weariness and this burden. We see a world that is heavy laden and doesn't know where to turn. We see a world that neglects its soul and desperately tries to distract itself with all the many other things that can be a distraction. Our world needs this invitation. Our world needs to know there is a place to turn when everything seems overwhelming, and that there is one who wants to help bear that burden, share that yoke, if we'll only come unto him. Many in our world are desperate to hear the invitation, or at least be reminded of it. There might be very well someone in your life, but they don't see the burden. See it as your well-fitting yoke, a yoke that is easy, a burden is light, because Jesus has made it just for you. So today, come to Jesus and find your rest within your soul. And then go in peace to share this invitation to all those who long to find rest.